Hello, everyone. I am very excited to be here because the topic is very, very interesting today. The topic I want to talk about is limiting beliefs. I'm sure all of you heard about it. All of us have few, some of us have more than few. So I'm excited to bring this topic because there's a lot of conversation around this topic. So it is something that we all have, right? So limiting beliefs aren't just beliefs. So, what are they? So, that is the conversation I want to have with you today. But before we get started, we have to bring ourselves here and now. So, why don't we, because we're on the topic of limiting beliefs, why not talk about how our limiting beliefs can pull us to the past, right? A lot of the limiting beliefs are patterns that actually keeps us really occupied with the limiting beliefs we have. So, what are some of the limiting beliefs you have that's keeping you in the past? Because obviously a lot of these limiting beliefs has a source, right? They started somewhere in the past and they came from somewhere or someone or something has created a pattern that evolved into a limiting belief. So there's a definitely a past connection to it, and only way we can figure what that is by noticing and really become so aware and becoming like an investigator of your own limiting beliefs, right? So I always talk about that investigator mode. I love being an investigator of my own self. Like, I need to be curious about myself, right? Like, why do I do this? Why do I say this? How come I do this again and again? What is my limiting belief? So we love to talk about other people, we love to help others, but I find that we need to start talking about ourselves first, right? Because that's what makes us come home to ourselves, and then we can lead others and ourselves so much better. So, if you've been thinking about the past and your limiting beliefs, so what are some of the limiting beliefs I could think about? Well, I don't really have anything at the moment because I have worked on every part of my body, every part of my cell. I had to work to become the person I am today. So I do not have any limiting beliefs. If they do come in, they are short lived because I can just catch myself, my brain making stories. I can just tell my brain, oh yeah, I see you making such a great elaborate story here, but we're not going to believe that. I'm not going to believe that. So don't waste the time. Don't waste my time. Don't waste your time, right? So I'm able to talk to my brain. So I don't have limiting beliefs. But did I have limiting beliefs in the past? Of course I did. So let's talk about those because I don't see anybody yet joining me. So I want to talk about my limiting beliefs. My limiting beliefs, it was that nobody ever wanted me around, right? So I wasn't accepted in social situation. I always was the listener. I was never able to speak what I want to share with them. So I created this identity that in social situation I'm just kind of the third person that stands and nods their head and listen to conversation. I'm not that of an outgoing person. So I just stay in conversations just to hold space. And of course, through that experience, I did become really good at one thing, believe it or not, a great listener. It actually made me a great listener. But what it did is I kept telling myself and limiting myself that I'm not a speaker. I can't speak. I'm not a person who can say my views or point of views, right? I always kept them to myself. And this started way, way young. Like, even as answering in a classroom, I would never put my hand up and answer any questions because even though I know it's right, and after I don't answer, some other person will put up their hand and say the exact answer. And I feel like, oh, I should have said that. I didn't have the confidence to say it, but I also created this whole story, elaborate story throughout my life that I'm not a that type of person that speaks on the spot, that shares their openly their mind, what is saying. I can't do that because what if I get judged? What if I get it wrong? So I had to protect myself all the time. So my limiting belief was I limited myself from speaking up. I limited myself from sharing my thoughts. I've always did that. So that became a huge, huge identity throughout my life. I was carrying that for so long. And what else did it do? It gave me no opportunity to share anything. People just thought I never had any ideas. She's just kind of a boring person. That's what anybody would think, right? If you just stand and nod your head all the time. That's what I used to do. So what is something that you used to do? Now, if I was the old person, I would visit that all the time because I would be part of a conversation. Let's say I go out, I meet a few friends and they're all talking. I stay out of the conversation as the third or the fourth person who's with them. Right now, if I was that same person, I would be thinking of the past and say, maybe I shouldn't have gone with them. Maybe they're not a good, my type of people. Maybe they're not good people to hang out with. All these things, I would go back and relive that same situation and be in the past. That's something I used to do, but I don't do that anymore because whenever I have something to share, if it's really important, I'll share it. If they like it or not, that's their problem, right? But I have to share it because I'm not going to be standing with 3 4 people just listening and nodding forever, as that's my job. So that was limiting belief. That's how much I would have spent in my past beating myself about situations and social situations, other situations where I wasn't able to talk. So what are some of your limiting beliefs that takes you to the back, like to the past, and keep replaying it, and then you have to deal with it, and then you feel sorry, you feel embarrassed, you feel stuck, you feel like, oh, I can't get out of it. What are your limiting beliefs that keeps you in the past? Think about it, because believe it or not, it's simple as it sounds. Awareness is the number one thing that we need to get so good at. Awareness of this soul right here, this body, this person right here. We are so aware of everybody else except ourselves, right? So why don't we get so curious, like a investigator, investigate ourselves? That way we can really look at what is keeping me in the past. Okay, so what can I do with my past? What would I have done, and what should you do with your past? Just let it go, because nothing is going to happen by revisiting the past. We can't change the past. I cannot go back and rewind all my years into early elementary school and relive that, and somehow I'm going to get something out of it. No, nothing. It's just waste of time. It's total waste of time, and it keeps me from doing what I could do now and here. This is the only moment I have, and I don't do anything here. I keep wandering away over here because my brain thinks it's very important to think about the past. So why don't we just let it go? Before we let it go, here's a very important thing that we must do. Every one of us must do. Pick up the lessons, grab the lessons. It's like if you want to wash something away forever, grab the lessons. What is the lesson that it taught me? For in my situation, as I was sharing earlier, it would be what? What is the lesson I learned? By staying quiet, usually people think you don't have anything to share. You don't have ideas. You're not that bright. You're not that, you can't contribute anything. You're not as someone who's going to collaborate and contribute. You're just a quiet person. You're just shy. These are the things others are going to say about me. They're not going to say that I know these ideas and she's just not sharing because she's not comfortable. They're not going to think that. They're going to think that I'm quiet, shy. Maybe I don't know what's going on. Maybe I'm not capable of that conversation. That's what they're going to think. Because otherwise, anybody would speak up, right? So they're not going to say, poor me. Oh, she's probably very shy and she doesn't want to say it. She probably knows the right answer. Nobody thinks like that, right? So why don't I take the lesson? Lesson there is to, if you have something to say it. There's no right or wrong. It's just what you think, right? It's a conversation. So why didn't I say things when it was a conversation? Why didn't I say things if it was right or wrong? Who cares if it was a right or wrong? Why can't I put up my hand and say it that this is the answer I think? Okay, oh, sorry, I made a mistake. Why couldn't I become so okay with receiving somebody saying like, this is a mistake? And why didn't I learn that long time ago when I was young? Why was I like always protecting me from failing? Almost like I cannot fail. I have to be good at it. Well, that's how we're taught, right? We have to always know everything. So my lesson is, don't stay quiet. If you know the answer, just say it. So that would be what I bring to now and here. Now, what about the future? A lot of us love to travel to the future, right? Our brain is so powerful. It wants to create the future for us. It wants to predict everything that's going to happen. Not only it wants to create everything that's going to happen, it also wants to look at the future through the lenses of the past. And it wants to tell you that how bad you were. You remember when you were in elementary, you couldn't speak to people. Why do you think you can, do this now? So whenever I'm making plan, my past will come and cloud my future. And then I create all these plans based on the past past failures or past disappointment. Now, is that the future I want? Not really. Is that the future you want? Not really. So why do we allow our brain to do this? We can cut it out. We can tell the brain to stop it because we own the brain. It doesn't own us. So why not talk to the brain and tell it that stop talking about the future from this perspective? I know my future is, there's a future available for me. I know this. Why don't I just bless it and release it so that it can arrive to me? Instead of you going and predicting with the past and clouding it and making it very scary for me and then making me think of all the what ifs. Because that's what happens when the future brain goes with the past knowledge. So where can I be instead of in the past or the future? Now and here. So right now you're watching me. Bring yourself to now and here. Now and here is the only place we can learn. We're all learning every single day. It's not just the kids learn. As adults, we are going to learn until the day that we stop breathing. We're going to learn every single day. Now, living is another thing that can only happen here. Try living in the past. That's just reliving it. Try living in the future. That is just imagining it, that we're going to go there. But we don't have the ability to do any of them. Only ability we have is now and here. This is the only moment that's possible for you to live your life. So why do we go into the past and future and make ourselves so anxious and so nervous and so not pleasant, right? It's not pleasant at all. Now, should you not think about the future? Of course you can think about the future. Just don't spend time creating it, because that we don't have that ability. Just set some intention and come to here and now. Because some of you might be thinking, am I wrong for thinking about my future? Of course not. We have to think about our future, because how else are we going to have a roadmap to get there? Well, we all have a intention. Some of you have goals. I don't have goals, but I have intentions for my future. So every action I take is going to be directed to that future intention I have set up. So that's how future thinking is good, except it has to be clean. It cannot have any residue from the past, any toxic thinking from the past. If it does, right away, you got to cut your brain to stop it, because it's going to create an elaborate story. It's going to produce a better story than any of the Hollywood, Bollywood, all these, film producers can produce. Our brain can produce it. So why not just release it, come back to now and here. So when you bring your hands like this, it actually grounds you. This is going to anchor you. So this is where you can lead yourself and others. And a lot of you tell me that I'm not a leader. You're not a leader of the world. You are a leader of yourself and the leader of your family, leader of the people you love. So we're all leaders in our own ways. So if you are here, this is a peaceful moment here. The more peace we can find in the now and here is how much we can create in our life, how much we can get further in our life, how much we can perform in our life, how much we can be successful in our life, is the ability to be here and now. Because if we're anywhere else, we're being sucked into wasting time. Past or the future, both of them waste quite a bit of time. Don't you think? Think about your life. Isn't that true? Okay. So now that you're here and now, one more exercise that I want to share with you that's going to bring us really here and now is breathing. I always talk about breathing, right? Breathing is so important, but we forget to do it. We forget, and we also, when we breathe so quickly because we're so busy, right? So why not take a deep breaths to calm ourselves down? So let's inhale for 4, hold for 4, and then release for 8, releasing all energy that doesn't belong in your body, all toxic things that you stored in your body from all over. I want you to let go through your mouth, just out through your mouth. Now inhale for 4, hold for 4, and then really exhale for 8. Again, releasing all the bad things that you stored. You don't need to store anything in your body. Your body is not a storage place. It's a place for you to have beautiful relationship. It's a place for us to take care of ourselves. It's not a place to store things that are going to not serve us. Okay, let's take one more time. Inhale for 4. Hold for 4. And then really exhale for 8. Let's go. Let go all the pain, all the noise, anything that's keeping you worried and stuck, let it go, because we don't need it. It's gonna not work for us if we keep looking at that, right? Okay, so coming to our today's topic, as I said, it's about limiting beliefs. So I wanted to share with you something that can, I want you to imagine you're driving the same route every single day, the same turns, same stops, the same timing. So what happens after a while? You're not thinking anymore, right? If you're taking the same drive home or somewhere, you're taking that same route, you're going to stop thinking of that drive completely. Your body just goes. You could be thinking about something else and it still end up exactly where you always go. Have you ever had the moment like, I don't even know how I got to this place? Because it's so normal for you to drive that, it becomes almost like you're not part of that trip, right? So now here's the part that most people miss. This is exactly the way, just like you driving the same path every single day, this is the exactly the same way how patterns work. Because patterns are formed by doing something repeatedly. So that's how your patterns in your life is working as well. They're not conscious. They're there because they have taken a full ownership of you of that pattern, right? So that's why it doesn't have to be conscious. It's not chosen, it's just conditioned. It's conditioned that way. So the pattern is conditioned in you. You're just going to repeat it because it's so familiar, and this is exactly what you do. Just like you drive a vehicle to the same location back and forth, it's going to become like you're not going to be thinking about it at all, right? So when people say I have a limiting belief, I don't see it as a belief. I see it a well practiced route your system learned to follow. So, just like that trip back and forth, you have a memorized path that you would drive, you would stop, you come back. It's the same way that it's not a belief, it's actually a well practiced route. Just you have created a route. I mean, it is also inside of you a neurological pathway that is like a superhighway that you've done it so many times, the traveling, that you don't even have to think about it. You'll end up where you need to go. So it's a well practiced route. It's not a limiting belief, it's a well practiced route. You don't wake up one day and decide, I am not good enough, I can't follow through, I always mess up, right? We don't do that. We don't just wake up one day. You experience something, your system reacted, and it repeated again and again and again until the brain said, this is the route now. So we don't just say these things are limiting things. What we do is we do it again, the same pattern, repeating the pattern again and again and again until the brain says, this is the new route now. So that's why limiting beliefs are so um, powerful, but also there are so many layers to it because how it formed, how it conditioned, how it created a route for you, and that's keeping you in a loop and repeating it, right? So this is not a limiting belief or belief problem. It's a pattern that became automatic. So you have a pattern that's automatic. And after enough repetition, you stop seeing it as a pattern, you calling it just you. This is me, right? So, for example, earlier I shared about myself. So, what do you think I used to say about myself? One of the limiting beliefs I said was I was stupid. Makes sense because I can't answer anybody. I'm not able to communicate with a lot of people. Everyone else seems to be talking fine. So because I stand there nodding my head, and sometimes I don't even have to nod because I've been ignored. So I would actually start calling it, that is who I am. This is me. I'm not an outgoing person, right? I'm an introvert. I don't like social situations. And those are so wrong in my life. I love social situation. It's just that I didn't know how to overcome my pattern that I created, right? So we don't want to call ourselves, this is me. That identity, that pattern doesn't own you. It doesn't become you, right? It's where it started. So it's not where it is. It is not where you began. You started repeating a pattern, and that pattern created the limiting belief. Now you call it a limiting belief. You don't see the pattern, you just call it a limiting belief. And those patterns happen so fast, and we don't even know when they come and hold us a hostage, because a lot of limiting beliefs are things that keeps us stuck, so much stuck, right? And we overthink around them too, because our brain is so capable of coming up with all the facts, right? False facts, of course, of how this limiting beliefs is actually true. Your brain is so incredible. It just makes up all these stories how, yeah, of course you have that limiting belief. It'll just agree with you all the way. So then it just validates that limiting belief, and that's how the pattern gets stronger. That's how the root to that limiting belief is so ingrained. It's not being resourceful for us when it's a limiting belief, but we are so good at it that we created it, and it's like a permanent superhighway. It wants to use it all the time because it is what it knows, right? So what should we do in order to really shift this, right? So don't fight the thought, right? Don't fight that. If it comes up, don't fight it. And don't force confidence. Don't layer affirmation on top of it. But we need to go deeper. These are just layered stuff, right? Controlling your thought or fighting the thought, or like forcing confidence or affirmations on a system where you have a pattern that's underneath it, and we're not going to recognize the pattern. We're just going to patch everything on the top. This is what creates a lot of the failure we have in our society. So what we need to do really is go deeper by, you need to interpret the root. What is this root? Why is this root created? You need to figure out why the root was created. Then you want to interrupt that root. And you want to create new experience, because we want to teach our system that there is a new way to move. This old pathway is not serving me. I need to create a new pathway. So I have this beautiful forest analogy that I share with my coaches, and when you become a client, you will see it as well. Our neurological pathways are like superhighways, but many of them are limiting, associated with limiting beliefs, and they keep us stuck, these pathways. But we're so used to using the pathway, they're a superhighway. So anytime I think of something, it just goes through that superhighway very quickly. But if you're going to start identifying, interrupting these and creating new pathways, because the old one's not serving, so we have to create a new pathway. If you start doing that, guess what? It's like you're standing in a forest where there's no path at all. It's overgrown forest, and you have to go through this forest. There's no path. It's just a dense forest. There's no pathway at all. So that's why in the beginning it's hard. It's hard to interrupt the root, and it's hard to create a new pathway that is going to be powerful and serve you. It's hard. And that's where we coach a lot of people in shifting that for them. So when we create new pathways, they're like overgrown forest. So the more I start using that pathway, so if I go repeatedly, if I go for a hike or a walk in that forest, what is it going to happen to a path that was not there? I'm going to create a path, right? Because I'm keep walking on the same field day after day after day. So there's going to be some kind of little less overgrowth, and I'm going to push some of those away. So I'm creating a path so I can go through it. Now, what happens if I use that for 2 months? What happens if I start using that for 3 months? That pathway is going to get stronger and more It's going to become like a true pathway. So eventually, if we keep doing that, those pathways do become like a superhighway. And now what we have built is something that's going to serve us, because the previous pathway was not useful to us. It was full of limiting beliefs. It was every time I have to pass through it, I was being held and pulled by the limiting beliefs. So nothing happens. But now that I created a new pathway, it's amazing. I have a new pathway. I don't need to use the old pathway with the associated limiting beliefs. I create this new experience. I teach that there's a new way, a new pathway, so that we can get to success. So this is one of the training that we have for all of our clients, is talking to our brain and really thinking it from the perspective of the forest. Forests don't always have pathways. The more you walk through a forest, the pathways start getting more and more defined. And that is exactly how you're going to create your neurological changes and new pathways there as well. So that's why limiting belief is a pattern. It's associated with the pattern. It's not associated with it because you're this or you're that. And that's why adding anything on top of that is never going to work. We have to go deeper and we have to look at what's going on. Then we have to interrupt the root. We have to create new experiences. And then we move to that new way. So I want to close with some powerful questions today. So I'll close with that. Those of you who are listening, you might want to take notes and write this down. What have you repeated so many times that you started calling it who you are? What have you repeated so many times in your life that you started calling who you are? Because that's when pattern became identity. And when pattern become identity, of course, it's going to be limiting us in all aspects. So the second question is, what truth are you living that was actually just practiced? What truth are you living that was actually just practiced? Now, this is very powerful. Write this down. If your patterns were learned, all patterns are learned, because we come into this world ready to flow and be successful. All the training that we get from the birth, our parents, schooling, everything else in the social world, everything else in the real world, always going to condition us, right? Right? So that creates the conditioning, and then we go into patterns, then we take that towards self-identity. So if your patterns were learned, what becomes possible if you can unlearn it? Because all patterns are learned. Don't even say they're not. It's always learned. Because we didn't come into this world to be blocked, to have limiting beliefs. We didn't. We came so beautifully with everything ready to go, in flow. But then the world conditions us in this way, so then we have to work through it. If your patterns were learned, what becomes possible if you can unlearn it? Can you unlearn it? Is it possible? Last question, very powerful. Who are you without the pattern you memorized? Because patterns are memorized. It's like memorizing a timetable. I have a pattern for certain limiting beliefs. I practice so much that it becomes memorized. It's part of us. That's why some people say, that's me, right? That's just me. I'm just going to have this limiting belief. That's just me, right? So who would you become if the patterns were, if you go without those patterns, if you go without the limiting beliefs? So write down your limiting beliefs, go to the source of it, interrupt it, and reclaim your who you became, who you came here to be. Reclaim that. Because limiting belief is sitting on top of all of this, creating all of these patterns, and we just keep living in patterns. The minute we see our patterns, we cannot unsee it. You can never unsee it. So isn't it beautiful to become aware of what's going on? Isn't it really good to, that's why people say meditation. Some people don't like meditation, but it's really good. You know why? Because it actually makes you quiet down so you can really listen to yourself again. Because we are always doing everything else, right? Except we're not home here and we're not talking to this person here. So, do you have a limiting belief? Can you see the patterns of that limiting belief? Can you investigate? Can you become like an investigator and investigate and find out? Can you go deep enough to find out why that's coming up? Because every limiting belief has a root cause of something else. Can you do that? Do that and tell me in the comment section, please, how this resonate with you. What are limiting beliefs you have? And we don't need to live with limiting beliefs. You know how many things we could have accomplished? I could have accomplished so long ago if I didn't put all those limiting beliefs on myself and became an identity and walking around with this identity that I created. It's useless, right? It takes so much time, so much out of us to create all of this. We need to be simple. Let's start making this simple for all human beings, right? So what are your limiting beliefs and what are you going to do about it? Are they real? If not, can you challenge it? Thank you so much for watching. I love to hear comments. So today I wanted to talk about limiting beliefs. They are just patterns and we just need to become aware of them. Thank you so much and I'll see you on another live.